Oh, hi, friends. I'm trying to unpin videos. Here, I'll pin Darin so I can look at Darin's. Hi, everyone. I've pinned Darin, but I saw so many. This is also isolating, as you all know. I hope everybody's safe, and let's see clean hands, everyone. But, oh, I just saw a lot of people I miss. I'm all cheery from the faces flashing on the screen. But I guess I will dig in. Someone's sleeping in my office, a child, so I put myself in George O'Keeffe's living room. I'm really in the basement. That's all. I love George O'Keeffe's house. This is what it looks like. This is such a pleasure. First of all, Darin is the maestro of these events, and I think Darin has been kind enough to interview me like 400 times over 5 books, but it's a real pleasure. I hope to do him justice. Let me read I'll read the formal intro and then I'll do my intro. And then we all want to hear Darin read. And then we're going to, you all know the drill. Darin Strauss is the author of the best-selling novels. Let's make this one too. Chang and Eng, The Real McCoy, and More Than It Hurts You. The memoir Half a Life, a winner of the National Book Critics Circle Award, and a best-selling comic book series, Olivia Twist. I really like that. I have it. I have all of these, but the comics was fun. These have been New York Times notable books and Newsweek, Los Angeles Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Chicago Tribune, and NPR Best Books of the Year, among other honors. NPR is a radio station. The recipient of a Guggenheim Fellowship, an American Library Association Award, and numerous prizes, too many to list here. Strauss has been translated into 14 languages and published in 19 countries. He is the clinical professor of fiction in the graduate writing program at NYU. Go NYU. Oh, yeah, that's the official intro. I don't know how long I've known Darin. It's got to be like 20 years at this point, but I definitely got Chang and Eng before I met Darin, and it's just so fun for your, now that we're all old and gray haired and all that stuff. But like when you started a friendship by reading, I just love that book so much. I remember I lent it to my mom after. I think it's still on her shelf, but I probably have 2 because I know who I got the other one. Anyway, from Deborah. I have my friend Deborah's copy. Anyway, point is, he came hot out of the gate, which is a way to compare Darin to a horse. But I just wanted to know, Darin, I'm just such a big, big fan of your work. And I really want to pivot in the middle of this and hop right to mid-career. How much I loved Half a Life, when you know someone and you think you know them well, and then they not only switch forms, but like share this other part of themselves, this like deeply personal, super powerful book. It's just, so raw and human and open, and just his willingness to put himself out there and to explore himself. So honestly, it just really was a game changer for me with Darin's writing, though I'm a big fan of all the books. But we were talking the other day, and I just want to say how beautiful it is to me, because it was, we're going to talk about forms and switching forms, but to see Darin as novelist turned to nonfiction writer, and to like meld all that stuff together in this new novel, The Queen of Tuesday. It's his nonfiction self and his personal self and his fictional self and his fictional brain. It really is like a genre-bending novel that is just, nobody likes their work compared if they're going to say, oh, you're that guy, Darin Strauss. I really loved your first book from 20 years ago. After that, meh. So you know what? It's nice. I always say that we're not all gymnasts, because then there's only one direction your career goes. What I'm trying to say in all this is Darin's best book yet. I hope that's not an insulting thing to say to Darin, but it's such stunning, stunning writing. It's like all that work, all those years coming together. It's just beautiful to watch friends and writers you love, to watch them get better and better. Like it really is from page 1. It's really stunning, stunning, stunning. Anyway, I'll turn this over to Darin, and I have a million questions for you, buddy. But yeah, basically, Mazal Tov, and why don't you read?
Nathan, that was so nice. I am very insulted, but it's still very nice.
Well, it's recorded. You could be insulted again.
No, it's great to be introduced by a friend, and that really means a lot to me that you like the book. And thank you for doing it. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Deborah. I think she's here somewhere. And thanks everyone for coming. It's really great to be here in my house at NYU at the same time. So I'm going to read very briefly. I was saying before we started recording that I think Zoom readings are really tough. So I'm going to read really briefly, and then Nathan and I are going to talk. So I'm just going to read from chapter 2 of this book. I will give a quick explanation. It's the story of Lucille Ball, and it's a nonfiction book about her, basically. It's the story of my grandfather. It's a family memoir about him, and it's the story of their passionate affair, which is fiction. So I'm just going to read from chapter 2 about Lucille Ball in my dark room here. Neither New York nor Los Angeles, summer 1950. The woman is on the run from 40, but middle age evidently has quit the chase. 39 years old, and she looks good. But does that help? It does not help much. How do you take defeat? The defeat of a life's ambition. Say you're a woman who's kept loyal to a studio, and that studio balled up your career and tossed it in the commode. And it's a world for men. And say you've been around a bit. How in this world for men does such a woman crab together a living? Lucille's sitting at a drugstore counter in Buffalo, New York, eating a butterscotch ice cream, and she wonders how firmly those Coney Island the first scene before this was a party in Coney Island where she met my grandfather, who she calls Hold On or Isidore, and there is where she tried to get a TV show and she talked to TV execs. How firmly those Coney Island TV execs had recited their expected lines. No, sorry, Miss Arnaz, just not for us. No show for you. Pretty or not, she's aware even now of the lines like tiny shark gills around her eyes. The radio's going at the top of its lungs. Do-do-do-da-da, Les Brown and his band of renown. On Symphony Sid's nationally broadcast after-hours swing session, playing Birdland or maybe the Royal Roost. Desi's at her side, talking. Tonight went good, he said, went well. Des is a grammarian when anxious. Mm-hmm, she says. Lucille's personal movie, her life film, sure doesn't seem like a Capra. It seems like a Douglas Sirk, soggy plotline and all. Come now, Red, Desi's saying. You don't think we made everybody feel fine? Symphony Sid, she thinks, a particularly New York specimen, one of those Jewish men goofy for jazz. Jewish men. Hold on, it's my grandfather, had sauntered up to her again at the end of that Coney Island night, after she'd thought they'd said goodbye. And it had been lovely. On the beach near the city in the rain. That encounter had been just a trifle, however, just something to make Desi jealous, she thinks, almost convincingly. The man's strongly coiling black hair, thick, brilliantined, and his nose, its hourglass-shaped bridge, certainly foreign, stirringly familiar. A Jew, all right, tall and handsome, if memory could be trusted, and thrilling. Not because he in any way was unusual, because he wasn't. Sometimes a woman just needed something different, a nice guy, human and refreshing and normal, but also trickily witty around the eyes. Hold On looked to her like a man who ruffled life on the head. And a whole year has rolled by. Enough inappropriate memory. Sure, sweetie, Lucille hears herself say to Desi. Well, Red, so then our plan might finally work. Desi swallows, but his smile is a guest who's forgotten to leave. Will it? He says. Lucille's face tightens a little. Why is ice cream so much better in places like this, she says, kind of sharply. Buffalo. He nods and narrows his eyes in disbelief. Buffalo. The plan, the stupid plan. Months back, CBS, which hadn't wanted to sacrifice any of its radio properties, had been interested in repurposing Lucille's failed My Madcap Bride radio show for TV. Maybe. That was the rumor anyway. TV, that mongrel new medium. Well, count her in. Even that flickering appliance beats unemployment. But of course, a problem. Bride's husband had been played by Richard Denning, blonde hair, Gerber cheeks, middling charisma. Lucille liked Denning. She also planned to replace him. Not that Lucille at that career moment had much power to issue ultimatums, but working with her husband was the only chance she'd have to dust off her marriage, get it back on its feet. The Arnazes were often apart, frosty and thwarted. Desi'd cheat to his heart's content were Lucille to go off and film a show without him. She thought up a scheme to have him at her side all the time. But CBS didn't think the public could. Hell, CBS execs themselves couldn't accept a redhead married to a Cuban. That forced the Arnazes to prove that middle America would buy what they were selling. If we can show that crowd accepts it, then you must. So under the aegis of their new company, Desilu Productions, meaning as Lucille saw it, that she and Desi are the saps forking out the entire $20,000 for what amounts to a public audition, the Arnazes now tour what remains of the dying vaudeville theaters, covering the seaboard with pratfalls and puns, also a bunch of the Midwest. Save the career and the marriage, that's her thinking. Even her accountant says the tour will bankrupt them. I'll stop there. Thank you. I'm gonna give myself some applause here.
I'm unmuted, I'm back. Yay, Darin, I clap on behalf of one audible clap multiplied. Anyway, everyone's like, don't clap on our behalf. All right, I'm going to ask a big question second, but we have no time for this first question, but I still want to ask because I was already, I'm of a time. I love that you have a journey epigraph. Do you have anything to say about the movie Never Ends? For
Yeah,
us,
I just thought it'd be funny. So
ask your parents, ask your grandparents. We love that song.
yeah, it's a song. It's a movie about showbiz, and so I always like the song from this Journey song. This line from a Journey song. Oh, the movie never ends. It goes on and on and on and on. Journey, don't stop believing.
I was hoping you'd sing it. I was hoping to trick you, but it didn't work. I'll sing at the end. We'll sing out the show. Here's my big question. We are at NYU, however, virtually. This is a hologram of me in front of a Zoom background. Oh, I was very happy. This event's about me, but I was really happy for whatever little time I got to spend with Ed Doctorow as, colleague and at dinner here. And, I was just always such a big fan. Oddly, weirdly, as I start new work, I was like, I'm going to read books that I love. And I just reread Ragtime, which I love so much. I was like, how'd he do it? How'd he do it? And then it really, I was just thinking about the time jumping and the research and just feeling you're of a time. And then I opened your book. I'm like, you did it, Darin. Like, it really feels of a time. Like, that's such hard work to not get bumped, to not be like, that's not right, that idiom's wrong, like, that's off, we're not there, this isn't Lucille Ball. Like, it's also dealing with a figure, which I'll ask about Lucy later. We're on a first name basis. But so I guess, yeah, I just want to know, I guess I want to hear, I'm going to ask you about the research. That'll be part B of this giant question. But it was so interesting for me, like teacher and student and, decades passing, like the ability to do that. It's a really rare thing to be able to research a slice of America in that way and really, really build it in a convincing manner for the reader. Is there anything from your education? Is there any doctoral link to the work for you? I just think of really reading those books pretty much back to back. It was really astonishing to me. And I just didn't know if you'd talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just, I'm so focused on how I look. I feel like I'm trying to make my shoulders look less narrow. So
yeah.
Question, but
you should have thought of that at the gym. It's too late now.
But I heard doctor in there, so I'll go with that. No, doctor was my teacher and then my colleague, which was really a thrill, And I didn't actually read his books before. I was sort of a bad student in that way, and I'm always amazed when students do this to us, so I guess it makes sense that I did it as a student. I hadn't read his books until after I took his class, and so I think I was intimidated of him, and so I thought if I read his books, it'll be too much. But so he gave all these lessons about historical fiction, and I didn't think I'd write historical fiction until after I got out of school. So it's a long way of saying some of his lessons really did stick with me. He said, you're a novelist when you're doing historical fiction, not a historian. So do the least amount of research you can get away with, which I've always thought was good advice, as long as you keep to the second part of that, which is what you can get away with. And I think by that, he meant, if you do a lot of research, that will sort of push the story this way and that way. And if you are a novelist, you want to have control, as you know, of the story, and you got to make sure that your responsibility as a storyteller is to telling a fun story as a novelist, whereas your responsibility as a historian is something altogether different. So I definitely did a lot of research, more in this book than others, but I really wanted to make sure that it was a fun, engaging story at first. and I did want to capture something about America. You know, it's interesting. Like, so the book is about my grandfather who was there at the beginning of the birth of the American suburb. I like to say that my grandfather had this incredible talent, maybe the only one in the world who was able to inherit a bunch of New York City high rises and still end up flat broke.
Yeah.
So, but he was, before he went broke, when I came around, he was friendly with like LaFrac of LaFrac City, and Trump's father was an acquaintance of his. And so, you know, so I thought it'd be interesting to examine the birth of the American suburb and the birth of TV, because those two things really sort of changed the culture for better and worse. So I did a lot of research about all that stuff, but I really did want to just tell this love story and to talk about Lucille Ball, who I think is incredibly cool, which we'll hopefully get into in a little bit.
Yeah, we really will. And that's such a nice thing to say about research. And since this is a school event, I do think that's important to say, where there's like so many wonderful ways to procrastinate, which we're all really becoming professional at on Zoom. Like, you know, where I can bake, 1,500 types of bread right now. Though I've quit now, I'm back to ordering in, get back to work. But, you know, like on that note, you can out research the book. Like you could use that as an excuse never to move ahead. So I thought that was really nice to say. Oh, then one more question on the research was just language specifically then, and then I'll stop nerding out on what you pulled off building it. But idiom, the like 23 skidoo of your book, the language specifically, I want to ask about, because that's probably the best, you know, the part that most helps our brain ease into that time.
Well, Dr. O gave some great advice there too. He said, you know, you don't want, when you're writing, say, a book about the 16th century, you don't want to write language that is exactly like the 16th century, because no one would read it. So he said, what you want to do is you want to make the language timeless, which sounds like he's saying make it immortal and great, but I think he meant just scrub it of all sort of references to any slang or time-specific language. And then every once in a while throw in an anachronistic word, because it's kind of like a magic trick, like all fiction, but I think especially that part of historical fiction is a trick. So you want people to think it seems anachronistic linguistically, but you don't want it to read in a boring way for the modern reader. So I think that, I hope that it didn't seem too old-fashioned, but it didn't seem...
No, it's just literally just the right amount. But I like it. Thank you for that answer. That was just a selfish question that I wanted to know, because I was like, yeah, it's a really delicate, it's a fine balance. You should all read that novel too after this one. Maybe I should I have my questions in order, but let's get meta. I'll tell you how I'm thinking while I'm doing the thing. But you mentioned Lucy. I definitely want to get the Lucy thing in. So first of all, back to things that I assume now, where I'm like, oh, Lucy, we all grew up watching those reruns. And they're like, no, we have more than one channel now. We even have the internets. You know, basically, how do you feel about Lucy and, you know, building a character like that? And how is it to build it now, where I would bet like 22% of the people, you know, at this event right now are like, I love who, like that they, you know, where it's not this iconic giant character.
That's the thing I didn't realize. I guess I also started writing the book a while ago, but I actually just did an interview with CTV in Canada. So your backyard, where the woman said, no one my age knows who she is. And I found that interesting, but yeah, I kind of feel like it's irrelevant. So someone said this in an event the other day, and I think it's true. You know that movie Notting Hill with
I've only seen it 100 times.
with Julie Roberts. So Julie Roberts is basically playing Julie Roberts, but she's not named Julie Roberts.
Right.
And I think that this is a book about sort of the corrosive effects of fame and glamour and Hollywood. And so I don't know if it matters that you know her. She just stands in for that thing, even though she was incredibly cool. Like I do think she's an amazing figure, and I was really glad to have the chance to introduce her to some people. I mean, she doesn't need my help, obviously, but her show was so popular. I mean, here, I'll give you a couple of quick facts.
Yes.
Her show was so popular that when it would cut to commercial, in all the big cities, the water tables would drop, the reservoirs would go down, because everyone would just go to the bathroom at the same time. The entire country flushing as one.
That's
And
awesome.
that's actually true. I wrote an article about her recently for the Times, and I had to research. I said that, and they said that's not true, and I had to prove it to them. So it was true. But beyond that, she was also this kind of really cool proto-feminist figure. Like, she was the first person to be shown pregnant on TV. CBS thought America can't handle a pregnant body, and for some reason, and she said, yes, they can. And as I alluded to in the book, the part I just read, she forced CBS to air this interracial marriage. It was considered interracial then. I don't think it would be considered interracial today, actually, because he was probably Caucasian. But a Cuban man and a white woman in 1950, completely controversial, and she forced them to air that, and so that, I think, helped move the country forward a little bit. She was the first female executive, like mogul. So she greenlit Star Trek. So we wouldn't have Star Trek without her. Without Star Trek, there wouldn't be Star Wars or the Avengers or any of that stuff. So she really had such a huge impact on our culture.
Yes, 2 steps forward, 1,000 million steps back. That's what we're going for. That's fascinating. And now I have the line in my head, the entire country flushing as one, which I'm going to use for my presidential speech. Anyway, back to the epigraph. No, I'll keep moving on. I have a million questions about choices. I will be so sad if we don't talk about this, but the interstitials, there are no big spoilers here, but there's these moments of, almost, it's not even nonfiction, it's almost like straight journaling, like Darin's talking to us as Darin, as interstitials that open a lot of the chapters that are in the book that we come back to, late. I won't give away ending stuff or anything like that. But yet, just can you talk about form and structure, or just first, why don't you tell us about, honestly, everyone knows about the book. They read from the book. Hopefully they read the book. It's about you tonight also. How did you choose to write Half a Life? And I want that first. And then how did Half a Life, how did your nonfiction self, you've been working in so many forms, he's a musician too. He played the guitar at my wedding, but nonetheless, I know scripts and it's the comic graphic novels we say anyway, but you work in a lot of forms now. So yes, how did you really make the decision to do Half a Life, which is really so bold? And then how did that form sort of change your life or change your fiction that gets us this book?
Yeah. Thanks for that. The question. I mean, I did play at his wedding, but I wasn't invited to. I just brought the guitar.
Yeah. I was like, all right, have a canapé on your way out.
So I had this terrible thing happen when I was younger, where this girl committed suicide by riding her bike in front of my car. And I never thought I would write about it. It's so interesting. I went to school at this place called NYU, and I was a grad student, and everyone then was writing autobiographical fiction. And I wrote this book about conjoined twins from Asia. And so people said, well, why don't you write about yourself? That's what sells right now anyway. And I said, and I wasn't being facetious, I said, I have nothing in my life that's interesting to talk about. Because I had buried this thing so deep that I thought, I can't write about that. So
we were friends I didn't know till I opened the first page of the book, and we'd been friends, 15 years by then or something.
Yeah, I just think I had this secret. I didn't tell anybody. So I finally felt like, okay, I need to deal with this in the way I deal with things. Probably like Nathan, like all writers, and so many writers are here. I only know how to deal with things by writing it down. So I thought I'll just write down this thing, this accident, and I won't publish it. But once you have a bunch of pages and they make your living, you think, well, maybe this is a book. And then, so I put it out there, and I didn't think it was gonna. I thought it was gonna be like this small book for people who had gone through accidents, but it did resonate with people. I think because so many of us feel guilty about things that maybe we're not culpable for. So anyway, it was very powerful to me that I kept hearing from people who had these life events. And so I became really interested in nonfiction and how that works. And then I wanted to write another novel. And actually Jacob's, hi Jacob. Jacob's asking a question which ties into this. So I started writing this novel about my grandfather, Lucille Ball, but there was a whole other storyline this book is 309 pages. It was 650 pages when I handed it in. There was this entire storyline about me and my life. It was complete. It was fictionalized too, but it was this mystery that involved me, and I cut it. I eventually cut it down to just these interstitial things. So this 300-page storyline is now 8 pages of the book. So
No way.
yeah, and so I cut out all the plot stuff and just kept the character stuff. But that was really how the book, I think, took shape. And I'm proud of the architecture of the book. Now I think it's pretty interesting, but it only happened because I had to cut out all this stuff because the book wasn't working, and I had to figure out, how do I keep it together? I still need some stuff with me, and so the book is a weird mix of personal memoir, but just these interstitial things, family memoir, and fiction. And I think it was that, as you said, I've done all these things. I wanted to try to see if I could do like a greatest hits collection. Like, okay, all I've learned, can I make one book that sort of speaks to everything I've figured out about writing in the last however many years? And the reason I did it that way too is because, I read a bunch of biographies of Lucille Ball, and they're all sort of dry. Because I think if you write a biography of someone who's withholding, it's hard to make it really interesting because you're stuck with what you know. And so I realized, okay, I can do what a novelist does. If I do my job right, I can give a sort of sense of the texture of her life. So I thought maybe I could write the most fun kind of book possible because, when you write a novel, you're always wondering, is this character compelling or does this make sense? So I figured, well, if I write nonfiction about the most compelling woman in the mid 20th century, then it will make sense, it will be compelling. And then if I don't have to stick to just what's known about her, then I can take what's fun and interesting about fiction. So I thought, breaking all these rules can be really fun.
That you really did do that, and it really is fun. And I know I'm moderator, but this is still NYU, so I guess I feel teacherly, but like, what a great lesson. I remember you telling me that thing that we all tell each other, you're like, oh, I got to cut 300 pages out of my book. I don't, my editor said, I was like, just cut it. Like without seeing it, I was like, whatever it is, cut it. But
Right.
like, I can't even tell you that negative space thing. You write 300 pages, it turns into 8 pages. I got so excited. They're just awesome. It's just the right amount. And then I think like, or you could have fought for 300 pages and we'd all be like, I built them. So everyone now needs to be bored to death and read this slog of a novel that does not function. Like, I don't know about that book. You told me you said, I wrote this book, it's not functioning. I have to cut this massive hunk out of it. And you did it. And it's like, I love when 300 pages turn into like 7 good paragraphs, which it did. It makes the book. It's like these moments, they're really loaded. Oh, we have almost no time left. Yeah, let's ask, I have 2 questions. I'll race them out.
But I will say that, in theory, it's good. It's hard because, as you know, 300 pages is like years of work. And
that takes me days. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, right. So it's hard, but I didn't realize, I read that Woody Allen originally made Annie Hall as a 3-hour murder mystery and then cut out all that stuff. So I thought, okay, that worked for that movie.
But I wanted to, 2 questions. And what the nice thing I love that it's both the research for fiction. When people ask me what's true and not true in a book, I can't remember once I trick my own brain, once I convince it's not tricking. But once you build a reality, now I have all different memories of your grandfather and they conflate with what you've told me. But I feel like you've told me that he dreamed of being a writer. Did I make that up? Or is that? Yeah. So that's really moving to me. Like, I feel you're being personal tonight. Maybe my mom's watching. It's Shabbos. Don't touch your computer. Anyway, but the point is, I think part of what, back how moments and feminine and how things change, my mom dropped out of art school to marry my dad. And I think it drove my dream of writing. Yeah. That I think she's so talented. Anything that she never got the chance to try. I think that really drove me of like, I'm going to give it, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like, I'm just going to dig deep because if somebody, like, she didn't get the opportunity, I want to just fight for that. Like, how much did your grandfather, doing a job he maybe dreamed of, being a glamorous fiction writer like yourself. Like, how much did that affect your own drive?
A lot. I mean, it was really, I didn't know anybody. I mean, Nathan and I grew up not too far from each other, and in, I think, similar circumstances in a way where I didn't know anyone. Well, I guess
no one.
I guess it's different because your mom was an artist, but my family knew no one who did anything creative. So I had no role models except for my grandfather, and he was not a creative person. Other than I knew he had dreamed of being a poet, and he was not allowed to. I mean, he had a very old world family. He had a typical immigrant story. His father came over here with nothing and made a real life for himself and made a very successful business. And his son, the first generation American, said, I want to be a writer. And his father said, no, you have to take over the business. And he did, and he drove it into the ground. But he wanted to be a writer. And so I think that is why I'm a writer. And he died right before I sold my first book, but he knew I was writing it. And I think it meant a lot to him that he knew I was about to maybe sell it, and that meant a lot to him. And so it's interesting because this book is sort of hard on my grandfather. I talk about him cheating on his wife, and my grandmother really becomes kind of the secret hero of the book. But I think, it was a portrait of him that I hope he would be okay with.
Oh, I think, and back to fiction, I always say, like, if you know it's true, then you already knew the story. And if you don't know, then I think it's very loving. I don't think I will answer on behalf of your deceased grandfather. No, but I think that's it. Also, back to NYU, there's just different ways to come to writing. Like, that's it. I was in this religious, cloistered Long Island world, but I do think that slice, your grandfather, my mom, that there's like some subversive love of art. It feeds you. And then you end up in the writing world and everyone's like, when Pablo Neruda taught me to play squash, and you're like, what? And you're like, oh yeah, he was my neighbor. And you're like, okay. Anyway, there's many ways to get here. I have 9 more questions.
Giannis is asking a question saying, I don't know, the term fictional biography sounds like an oxymoron. Why not write about a fictional character, which could be Lucille Ball? Yeah. Again, I think that there's a real power in mixing the two. And I didn't know this when I started writing it because I've been writing this book for years, but it seems like there's something about this form that answers the modern moment. Like, Amos has a book that's about to come out, which is about him and Christopher Hitchens, but it's a novel. And of course, the what's his name, the Mein Kampf, My Struggle, what's that guy? Knausgaard. I mean, there's a lot of books doing
Camila at home.
What's that woman's name? Who's a British writer who's writing sort of. I'm blanking on her name, but she's really good, and she's writing books like this too.
I know who you're thinking of. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Playing with the truth and fiction to me is fun and allows you to be. It's more powerful, I think, if it's her. Someone asked, she's a beloved character. Do I feel pressure to abstain from fictionalizing certain aspects of her life? I think there's a moral obligation when you tell a story about a real person to be respectful. So I wouldn't have gone off the deep end, but I did feel, since it was a novel, that I was allowed to make some stuff up. Rachel Cusk, thank you. Yes, Rachel.
There you go.
Sorry, Nathan, I think I cut you off.
I was sliding right into the question. It was question time. Anyway, if I have a million more, but why don't you're headed in the right direction. I was going to smoothly segue into where you went.
Okay, someone wanted to know my writing process, and so yeah, it's been years writing this book. And I think because it was so difficult to mix all that stuff, I thought I'll just do it. But then, mixing nonfiction and fiction and memoir and historical and contemporary, it took me much longer to write this book than any other book. I mean, I did write the comic book in the meantime, but but I would, I write every day. Now with kids, I write every work day. So I try to write 9 to 5 every work day, except for the days I'm teaching. And then I prepare for my class on the weekends. But yeah, I think the only way to do it is to do what kind of like what John Cheever did. So Cheever would Cheever lived on like the 12th floor of a Manhattan high rise, and he
Oh, I love that story.
put on a suit and tie, went down, had coffee at the local coffee shop with the commuters, and then when they went to the train, he went back up to his apartment and wrote. And so I think that's what you have to sort of do to convince yourself, be very, and Nathan, you talk about this all the time with your students, I think, be very jealous of your time. Don't answer the phone when someone calls. Like, people who are not writers don't realize that when you're home writing, it's actually work. So friends will call and say, hey, can you talk? And you'll say, no, I'm working. And they'll chuckle and then they'll keep talking. Yeah. You have to be very clear that this is your office. This is your work time.
Yeah, I do not receive Amazon packages.
Right. Let's see, anybody else? What's your process for working on different books at the same time? I think it's kind of fun to do that. I hadn't done that before, but whenever, Nathan, I've heard you talk about this too. When you're not working on the book consciously, you're working on it subconsciously. So if I would get into a trouble spot with this book and then I'd go work on a comic book, and I think my subconscious was then working on it. So then when I was finished with the work in the comic book, I'd come back here and I'd have figured out how to deal with the problem without working on it. I think I'm a big believer in the subconscious brain.
And you're not I just want to stress for people, because I'm like not touchy-feely in that way, and neither is Darin. It really is just a clear thing. It's not like we, I don't know what, I'm not bathed in echinacea right now. I'm sure it's very useful. It's a very pretty plant. But I'm just saying, like, that thing, like, you really start to see that subconscious work gets done, and you can have 10 projects going. It's a good trick. Like, you can be a failure at writing your rock opera and just finish, 15 novels while you're suffering over it. Who cares about that?
Please don't shit on my rock opera now again. Not again. Let's see. What are the legal limitations of fictionalizing a real person? I think if it's a public figure, there aren't as many. So as long as I say it was a novel, I'm able to make stuff up about Lucille Ball. As long as I'm clear it's a novel. I did have to run it by Random House Legal, and they did make me change one thing about her children. But that was a very minor thing, which I can't talk about. The truth is my grandfather really did have an affair with Lucille Ball, but I'm not able to talk about it. How do you procrastinate? Too many ways. Twitter, playing guitar, talking on the phone. I'm too good at procrastinating. What's your favorite episode of I Love Lucy?
I want to answer that too. The chocolate. It's only the chocolate.
Everyone says the chocolate one, which is a great one. There's one with the actor Bill Holden where she has a fake plastic nose. That's funny. I mean, she was really great, but the interesting thing about her was not her talent, I think. It was more her ambition and her drive. So when she was 16 years old, Lucille Ball lived in upstate New York and ran away, came to New York City and tried to make it on Broadway and was fired and sent home and was told, you're not talented, you're not a good actress, you're not a good singer, you're not a good dancer, you're not pretty, go home, you're never gonna make it. And she kept trying. So she came to the city 10 times, failed in New York, went to LA, failed out there, didn't make it until she was 40. So from 16 to 40, she had incredible failure. And then, and this is something that no one talks about, I only realized it after I finished the book, her show is then about that same thing. It's about an untalented woman trying and failing to become famous over and over. That's what every episode is about. So I find that really moving.
That's so interesting, because I feel like that is really whatever you're obsessed with, like these, like, it's epic to you, and it's like an epic exploration of that. I felt, I'm going to psychoanalyze you, but at the beginning of the book, I feel like when you put her fears and hunger and what we want, I feel like I was like, oh, Darin is totally writing the writer's broken soul and putting it on her. I feel like that's what you laid on the character, and that's like what she laid on her character. Like, it's just this, crazy, vulnerable thing that we all do, and it's kind of rich for personality exploration.
Yeah, I mean, this I'm sure what we all do. You have to find some way into the character, and I knew she had failed, and I knew she was anxious about success. And I thought, well, what does a writer know about
About anxiousness.
that's my way into Lucille? Yeah. Mara asked, can I talk about the process of fictionalizing my grandparents? Yeah, that was really interesting. I had to think, I mean, someone recently just asked me, what is it like writing a sex scene with your grandfather? I mean, it was, there's some
That
raunchy.
sounds totally different than what is in the book.
um, so I had to think of him as my character. I mean, I wanted to respect my grandparents and capture them as they were. But once I started writing, I thought of them as my characters, and the book at that point sort of demanded a scene like that. So I felt like you have to just once you commit to something, you have to go for it, right? So that's why I didn't write the accident book for 18 years after the accident happened, because I wasn't ready to tell it. I feel like the only way to do it is to, like, when people say that, people have kindly, when the reviews are good of that book, they say it's brave. It's not brave. It's just once you decide to do it, you have to then commit to it. But if you're not brave enough to do it, then just don't write it. There's plenty of things I'm not brave enough to write, and I wasn't brave enough to write that book until I was. And so once I decided to write about my grandparents, I had to fully commit to them as characters and show their flaws. And so my grandfather, when I started writing this book, I was like, oh, he's a great guy. I'm going to show how great he is. And then I was like, well, he didn't treat my grandmother as well as I thought. And I really realized how flawed he was. And so you'd have to just, once you tell a story, I guess this is a lesson for students. Once you tell a story, and this is true especially for nonfiction, once you tell a story, you just have to commit to it. And if you're not able to commit to it, then just don't tell that story. And people say, I want to tell a story, but it's going to make my brother look bad. What do I do? And I say, well, don't tell the story if you don't want to make your brother look bad. But if telling the story well involves making your brother look bad, then you have to make him look bad.
So again, everyone deserves their questions asked. I have 9,000 more pages, but I am taking part of one of my questions back here because you're on the subject. And Half-Life's a whole different discussion for that. But in this book, I did want to know, like, did you talk to your family? Did you decide, like, I'm just owning this? Did you let them see? What was the process along the way with that? Are they being supportive about the book?
Great question. So I talked to my grandmother's sister, who's still alive, who's 98, and she was really helpful. But beyond that, I didn't talk to them. And some people are mad in my family, yeah, there's a great Yiddish saying, which is a family is doomed when a writer is born into it. And so
That's funny.
I didn't think they were going to be as mad as some of them are, but I was honest about my grandfather. And yeah. And similar topic, Gustavo asked, how do you reconcile the debate about fake news when you're writing
Oh yeah.
nonfiction? I don't know. Like, I'm very angry at fake news. I'm very angry when memoirs lie. But I think with a novel, you have to give yourself permission. I mean, and I find that's true with movies too. Like, I was angry at the movie JFK, even though it was a fictional movie, because it took so many liberties with this assassination. But I think that was because Oliver Stone claimed to have learned how JFK died. So I think if you're saying this is fiction, then I think it's literature.
You own that universe. I mean, yeah.
And there's a great tradition of that. Like, Shakespeare wrote about Julius Caesar, and Tolstoy wrote about Napoleon, and they didn't feel obligated to stick to what was known. So I don't think it's fake news in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I always yell at students. I was like, right, you can do anything, write anything, own anything, as long as you don't represent, like, as long as it's ethical, all that stuff, like, build anything you want. But yes, if it's not true, don't call it nonfiction. Like, that's about the only rule. Like, just, don't claim it.
And I hope I'm pronouncing it right, AMA says, what surprised me the most about her? What surprised me the most was she was this incredibly powerful woman, and yet her husband totally humiliated her in public. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to give her own affair, really, to give her a sort of measure of revenge. And I wrote about this. I've been doing a lot of writing about Lucille around the books. I wrote this article for Vanity Fair about how Desi Arnaz, her husband, completely humiliated her. I mean, at the height of her fame, in a much more prim time. So this was 1955. The country was so prudish that they couldn't show Desi and Lucy sleeping in the same bed, even though they were married. So as that's happening, Desi was caught by LA Confidential magazine with 2 prostitutes. And that was a public story. So I just thought that was fascinating to me and showed how hard it was to be a powerful woman back then. I mean, it's hard being a woman executive now, but imagine being a woman executive in celebrity back in 1955. So I thought, that was shocking to me.
I bet we have time for one more. Do you have any more there? I can ask of my 9,000.
Maybe ask yours. I think I of all the ones I've seen,
Yeah. Okay. Oh, how about this? Since also back to NYU, there's a wonderful moment. It's the only spoiler I'm going to do for the book, which is just where Darin shows up at his not agents uninvited, like I'm a genius. It's like I'll wait. But I guess I want to know about like showing up for a meeting that way. Is that real?
No, that was fake. I used my real. So I wrote my agent into the book. She wasn't my agent then, but so there's like a 28-year-old Darin in the book, and he's trying to get an agent, and he meets the woman who's my agent now. And I put her in the book. I thought she'd be more psyched about it. She's just like, yeah, okay.
It's a very bold thing, and I was like, did he really just show up at the office like, I got a book? I was like, did that ever work? Does that work? I wanted to know. I thought they might want to know.
I had it. He might be here. I had an agent. I sort of got an agent the wrong way. I picked my friend as my agent. So when I was 24.
Oh, this is funny. I know this one.
I was friends with this guy, John Hodgman, who was also 24, and he said he wanted to be an agent. So it was like, okay, great, let's work together. But I never really tried to get like a high-powered agent or anything. And I thought it's so cool. I have an agent at 24, but he didn't know what he was doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. So it was not.
He did know. John was like, I'm going to make you famous. He's like, no, I'm going to make me famous.
So the funny thing about John is, John started to realize he liked being a writer more than an agent. So at one point, he was like, I'm not going to send your short stories out anymore. And I said, why? And he said, I'm sending my own short stories out, and it would be a conflict of interest. So I said, all right, maybe I'll find another agent just for my short stories. And he said, you don't think I do enough for you? It was really funny. But he is now a famous writer and television personality, John Hodgman. He quit, and he's got a new documentary on HBO Max about that just came out about Action Park. So check it out. But he's
John Hodgman.
Great guy, not the best agent, but by his own admission. But he was very generous. He waited. He knew he was going to quit, but he stayed on for like an extra 3-4 weeks until my book came out. He quit the day my book was reviewed by Michiko Kakutani, which he did as a favor to me. So that way I was able to get an agent very easily. Because, if he had left before that, I published nothing. So he would have left me in the lurch, but he waited until I was set up in a good spot. So then I was able to go to the Wiley agency. So that, great guy, but I don't have a good agenting story.
Yeah, well, I like both those stories, but don't go to HBO Max yet. We're Queen of Tuesday.
Yes, thank you.
Really beautiful, and you're awesome tonight. And if you have closing remarks, thank you all for coming. Do you have any closing remarks, Darin, or anything?
I just want to say thanks everyone for coming on a Friday night. It's so nice, and
Raptors game starts now.
Joanna, thank you. Deborah, thank you, and Nathan, especially great to talk with you. I love seeing you. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for coming. Really amazing.
What a joy, and so nice to see so many of your faces. Miss you all. All right, thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yay, Darin.
Yay, congratulations. Happy birthday, book.
Thank you.
Thanks.